Hello class. We're going to start with a onshape tutorial. First thing you do is you go to onshape.com. You're going to log in as I had shown you before. Just hit sign in here. And let me see, let's just see if we can delete that one. Send to trash. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to create. We're going to create a document. The document, let's say first assignment. So what you see at first is the three planes that define a three-dimensional space. This is a three-dimensional drafting program. So we've got all three axes. Now, most of you are familiar with the X and Y axis, and that would be from this top plane. That would be Y going here, X going here, as if this was a piece of paper on your desktop. However, since the real world has three dimensions, you have a third axis, which is the Z axis. So this plane right here is the ZX plane. This one here is the ZY plane. But since we're going to start out in 2D, we're going to go for the XY plane, which is going to be top. I'm going to go to Sketch. Now, you might see all of these tools over here. All of these tools are for three dimensions, so we're just going to ignore them for now. Go to Sketch. Now, two of those popped in here with us, Extrude and Revolve. When we get to 3D, we'll use those, but for now, we're not going to. And it keeps us in this isometric view, and we don't want to be in the isometric view because we're just doing 2D. So we're going to go over to this thing. This thing here is called the view cube. You can change your view to whatever you want. I want the top view. So that's the view that we are going to go with. All right, now that we have our top view and we're looking at our XY plane, so here's X, here's Y, the XY plane. Let's go through what the tools are. There's a line tool, it makes lines. Make them into a loop, and it just stops. You can just keep going, and if you want to stop making lines, you can go here and hit double click. I think I didn't quite double click quick enough. There we go, double click. I accidentally made an extra line. Or when you're done making lines, you can right click and hit escape line. Looks like a set of constellations here. There's a square by corners where you go like this, square by corners. Notice it gives you an option here. It highlights this little box here. I can type in a size. And then it goes to the other one. So I can tell it how big this box is. I can also go to this arrow and can do a center point one, which will be very useful for one of the projects. There we go. There's a specified center point rectangle. Same thing with circles. There's also 3-point circles, ellipses, 3-point arcs, and some other ones that we probably won't be using. Inscribed versus circumscribed polygons. Polygon being any multi-sided shape. So let's say you wanted to make a hexagon, there you go. But if you wanted a nonagon, you go there and there's decagon, dodecagon, triangle, square. Of course, we have other things for squares, and so forth. A spline. A spline is similar to a line, except it's curved. Get some much more interesting lines going here if you use a spline. Again, you can just double click. The tool that you used to use to make a spline would be just this like piece of rubber that you bend wherever you want and then you trace it, similar to a French curve. French curve was like that, but it was a hard piece of plastic that is copied. There's a couple different spline points where you can go. You can go and escape spline. You can go and modify these a little bit. Oh, I left the sketch. That's why it's not modifying. I double click on the sketch and go back in. Then I can modify the spline how I wanted to. There we go, splines. A point feature, which will come up later. Text, which gives you a box. You can say, this is text. And okay, well, it puts text in. You can change the font too, I believe. Edit text. You cannot have a lot of selection though, apparently. Controls are slightly different from the ones that I'm used to. So, excuse me here, there we go. To edit it, I right-clicked and I hit edit text. And then highlighted, let's select a different font. Very well, that is a different font. Not a huge selection there. Project geometry here, you're going to use it eventually. Fillet, you take two sides of something and then you can round it. You might look at that word and say, that kind of looks like fillet, like a fillet of fish. And it does look like that because the same word imported from French about 200 years apart. When it came in the first time, it dealt with French furniture, which was all the rage, around revolutionary times. And over the years, it became anglicized and turned from fillet into a fillet. And then it came in again more recently with French cooking. And in French cooking, it stayed a fillet. They both mean to cut. You're cutting the corner of a piece of furniture, you're cutting a slab of fish. Fillet for objects and furniture, fillet for food, filet mignon, filet beef. There's trim, which, let's see, these ones have some lines crossing. If you have lines that cross, you can go through and trim off the ones that are on the outside. Becomes quite convenient sometimes. Similarly, you can extend. It's basically the opposite of trim. Go extend that back to where it used to be. Offset. You can offset the outside of the lines and end up with another surface there. Mirror, where you can take, say, something here, select a mirror line. Let's go for this line. Object to be mirrored. Let's go for this circle here. I didn't like that one. Select entries to be mirrored. There we go. Totally mirrored some of this stuff here. It's getting a little messy, so it's hard to see. Let's cancel out of that. Patterns. You can take something and so What I'm doing here, the scroll wheel on your mouse goes in and out. You can also use your touchpad to go like zoom on a phone. That'll also zoom. If you use the middle button on your mouse and click, you can move it left to right. Let's see. Nope. Does not allow the same thing. I just did a whole bunch of what I didn't want to do. All right, well, I'm sure there's a shortcut for that with the touchpad, but I don't use the touchpad as much, so it does work with the middle button there. You can also change the view by using the right button and just moving it around. That on the top view. Okay, so sorry, I got distracted on linear patterns. So we take one of these, we select that. We've got how many times? So let's say click on that. Let's say we're doing this 5 times. Let's say it's by 2 inches. Say that's by 3 times. Ooh, this is getting messy. And then there should be another dimension here. I'm not quite seeing because I've made this too much. Let's click there. It's fine. There's insert a DXF or a drawing, which we will go over later. And then one of the most important ones of all is dimensions, which will tell you how big things are. Also allow you to control how big things are. So you say, oh, that's 1.5, blah, blah, blah. Let's go to just 1.5. And it fixes it. And because this was part of a pattern, multiple names for that, I had to double check which name they were using. Since this is part of a pattern, it fixed all of them at the same time. Incidentally, an array also is sometimes used as a name for that, but pattern for this one. All right, so these are the basic tools. Oh, actually, one more. Constraints. If you want to force something to do a particular thing, these 2 buttons basically do that. One, force it to be a certain size, which is going to be very important. If the sizes are not correct, it will not be able to be produced. Also, everything is going to be graded off of, did you make it to the correct sizes? If like it's put into the laser cutter and it's the wrong size, it can actually catch things on fire. So we're going to make sure to pay attention to sizes. Dimensions, very important. Constraints, also important for making sure something is where it's at. So I selected horizontal, I made that horizontal. Make that horizontal. It's horizontal. Make things tangent. You can say this needs to be tangent to that. And hey, look, they're tangent. All right, so this is a big mess. Next video, I'll start to go over things that I actually want to have turned in. This is just basic stuff.